Shinkando sishaka punatwe kale pansaka shicharndana lete lyashi lyashinshi lyoline twalalanda kufunda bantu balekyo kupatana bantu balekyo lyashinshi lyoline twalalanda kufunda bantu balekyo kupatana mumayanda pamachitone mitundo yonse talamute mwana mumayanda pamachitone mitundo yonse talamute mwana kube chikotene sasa talamute mwana kube chikotene sasa.
Good evening, Zambia. Good morning, good afternoon, depending where you're watching us this evening. Welcome to another special presentation of TV Bakwetu. I'm your host this evening, Frank Saliki. Today, we're going to be covering more topics on what is going on in our country. And it's important that we share what's going on in our country. It's important what we always communicate to our people, and it's important we always have a take in what is going on. And my co-host this evening is Mr. Mkelabai. Kimazi Wanindate.
Ritumezis chavasa Jesus chavasa bulozi murishani avena chiwempala uko muletu mfuila vonse avena kopala chungulopo mkwai avena chipata Livingstone Southern Province Monze Kalomo kwa Mungu kwa hai muchwani chavasa Jesus mwakao mamo Ritumezi and our brothers and sisters that lives in the diaspora. Good evening and welcome to the program.
How cold is Norway this evening?
Well, it is quite cold today, but not very. We are actually in -6. But yesterday,
not very cold. It's just -6.
Absolutely. Absolutely, but it sometimes gets a little bit colder, mostly at night and in the mornings. Yes, otherwise we are expecting the little bit cold weather in the next few weeks. And we are also expecting much snow. So we're going to have a white Christmas. I hope
White
so.
Christmas. Dreaming of a white Christmas. You're dreaming of a white Christmas. Yeah. Anyway, so this evening we're going to cover some of the topics, some of the things that are going on. A lot of things have been happening in the country over the last few days. And one of the things is that a president is going to be traveling. And I think a lot of people might say, you know what, you used to say that the previous President Lungu used to travel a lot. But some people may argue at the time that the president our current president is traveling a lot. But it's quite important to understand that the trips that the president has done so far are very, very vital in running our country. Very, very important in building our economy. As the president, when we elect the president becomes a salesman for our country. If you're a salesman, you can't just stay there and send somebody else. You have to go yourself. And that's why the president has been doing these trips to go to the neighbors. He went to the DR Congo. He's going to Malawi on Tuesday. And people might say, why has he got to do this? And I think one thing that we have to understand is we have to have relationships with our neighbors. There has to be diplomatic relationships. There have to be business relationships to build, and the president is our salesman. We elected him to be our salesman. Wonkilabai.
Absolutely, my brother. You have said it all. Otherwise, I'm just a little bit concerned of the so-called opposition, the message that they are trying to send to the Zambian people. And today we see many Zambians, they are starting to try to be negative on the president's program. You know, people are forgetting, they are forgotten. You've just forgotten my fellow brothers and sisters. This government just came in power few months ago. And you know what they inherited. They have inherited a huge debt. That the economy, it's really, really, really in a very, very bad state. Unlike what these guys inherited when they came into power in 2011. So I don't understand when I see people, Akainde Ichilem and UPND, they're not going to bring their own private money to run this economy. The money they're using should be coming from our Zambian people. The government has some money, but do we have enough money to fulfill the promises that these people have made? They haven't even started working on their promises. I mean, acting on their budget yet. We haven't yet started. We are still on the budget of the
issue about money.
Yes. So they shouldn't be just negating the president just for the sake of disagreeing or negating the president for the sake of politics, just because you're in the opposition. Opposition should come up with substantial arguments and very positive arguments. This man, when he goes around to visit, is just a young president that just came in. And traditionally, you know what it is. We're not supposed to expect senior president to come and visit the junior president all the time. No, it's the junior president to run around and learn what is happening out there for as long as he's running within our means. He's been economical, and those trips are benefiting the Zambian people. When he comes back, he brings something to share with us. Not Bambi, Balea, Babuela, Namangova. Do we see the same thing? So let's not try to beat about the bush. Mwambo Kulalan that no, this government is not performing. They've just been in power for a few months. So mwewale fokuleta optuma negative spirit. Ikale ni fietondolonga tamkwete fia kulanda kavie ni Rwanda. Stay there or kavie elsewhere. So don't bring your negativity. I know you're trying to come up with the checks and balances, but your checks and balances, they're too early. They have not even started doing the real stuff. You know, we know that you wanted a positive impact, that the first few months we have to see. But you'll be the same people who will be complaining if they start locking you up and ceremoniously and dismissing you, or rather terminating your contract unceremoniously. You'll be the first people to talk. So please, let's give this government a little bit of benefit of doubt and see how they're going to work. Especially people from the PF, you destroyed this country, and this gentleman is trying to build up, and his people, they're trying to build up what you destroyed. So shut up and listen and watch.
I think what is important, Ron Kalavai, is so with HH Strip to the UK, when he came to the UK, he managed to raise in about £8 million to bring back. So for him, it's about how we can build the economy and how we can help, how we can help the country. And before people start criticizing HH for his trips, we have to remember it doesn't take 20, 40 people with him on these trips. His first trip, he traveled on a public airline. He traveled on a commercial airline so that he can save money for the country. These are the trips that the president needs to undertake. One thing that we have to understand as the people of Zambia, as somebody who's ruling the country, they have to have certain trips that they're going to undertake. It's a given. A Republican president is going to have trips that they undertake. Whatever president, whatever part of the world they're in, they have to have trips that they will undertake. That is a given. The argument when the UPND was in opposition was the trips that the previous governments were taking were not beneficial to the country, but they were more using up the resources that the country had. So they used to borrow all this money, then they take it, they go on these trips, then they go partying with all this money that they borrowed. So it's not the fact that they took those trips. The argument was the trips that they took were never really beneficial to the country. Too many people used to go on these trips. It's 20, 40 people. You don't see that with any countries, any European countries. A government, a prime minister, president won't travel with that many people. Why? Because it's expensive. Because when you take people to a trip, that many people, what is it? One, you're paying them to be on that trip. So every day that you're on that trip, you're paying them. You're probably paying them allowances for being away from home. Then you're paying for their accommodation, you're paying for their travel, you're paying for their food. That all adds up, and then you ended up having these trips that used to cost 40, 50 million kwacha, a president trip, coming from a country that is poor, coming from a country with no good hospitals for its people. These were resources that were not being spent in the right way. So when we say, why is the president doing this many traveling? The president has to, and you have to compare the two. You have to compare the two. When President Lungu undertook his trips to the USA, what did he bring back? When President Hichilema went to USA and the UK, what did he bring back? Then you compare the two. What have you brought? Instead of just saying, look, it's traveling as well as much. It's not about how often you travel. Listen, I don't know. I don't care. If this year President Hichilema in 2022 traveled 400 times, and every time he traveled, he brought something substantial to the country, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. What bothers me is when people think they can travel and party using national coffers. There lies the problem. Kelavai.
Balea nava navo indekea official on official business. Balea nava navo abashakwa totupoto who have never held any governmental portfolio. These are the chaps that were found with the president in a very expensive jet, and you go and borrow the monies, and that money that came to Zambia. Have we seen what they have done with the money today? What benefits have we? Why are we still so much in huge debt today? Look at them. They are so rich right now. They are just they should actually be ashamed. more especially more opposition leaders, you guys in the opposition today, especially PF. Me, I really expect you to be the last people to even come in and start claiming that this government, this president is traveling too much in Kamwendo Munjira. Kamwendo Munjira, Kamwendo Munjira, ni uli know of Minepo. What this president is doing, Vane, is trying to cover up your mistakes. We have not, look, you are still free, you are still running around, you have this freedom of movement, you are not caged yet. I'm using the word yet. This president is observing. He knows right now what is more priority. His priority is to make relationship, to create and to build up this picture, the relationship, the good picture, and the relationship with other countries, so we can start trading and even get this debt, the heavy load debt. This president, every time he moves in his way, in a very, look, for the first time, a sitting president jumping on a commercial flight. Aren't you ashamed, by PF, please? You opposition leaders, aren't you ashamed? Why do you think this president is thinking of even jumping on a commercial plane to go to the UK, to go to America, using a commercial plane? You think he wants it? It's because of your mess. You messed up. And that's why you have reduced him to this level. Look at the ministers. The ministers, they're driving to what is this to? Actually, maybe they're even riding in Jinga, which is they're supposed to. Because you guys introduced a very fake system in our country. A minister that's supposed to serve the people, you go there and start riding most expensive. Meanwhile, your community or your constituency can't even afford a bicycle pascolo. So this kind of mentality and this type of you guys ukula bossa apashiri pakubossa ikale nifie muma yanda yenu and wait and see what this gentleman is trying to do for your country. Already in 3 months he went to the UK. He came with 1 billion for greenhouse. And he went to what? He brought 100 million. For what? He brought it for small scale farmers. I mean, for small scale entrepreneurs. He went, he brought 18.5 million of COVID. 3 months. How much money have you destroyed within 7 years? You want him to bring magic. He's not going to be abracadabra. This man is here to save us, to save you who destroyed the economy and come back to life. He wants to save this country. So if you're Mulelande, if you're mama opposition, ndemi papata, we are watching, we know what you're doing. You're trying to sabotage. This man is trying to bring something special that you failed. Had you been given an opportunity to run this country yourselves, who are these other positions? But this man has a vision for you to start calling him a liar, that he is not fulfilling his promises. You should be ashamed of yourselves. It's too early to start coming up with such kind of allegations. It's too early. Let this man do his job. Let him do his job.
I think what a lot of people, and this is really disconcerting for me, what a lot of people don't realize, it was a country that was mismanaged for years. Absolutely. It's almost this expectation, like HH was going to walk into State House and 3 days later, everything was going to be fine. It was a country that was, it was a government that was mismanaged. It was a system that was completely mismanaged. And my take on a lot of things, a lot of people thought things are going to be fixed very, very quickly without realizing that actually sometimes when you go to fix something, you have to break it. You have to really look at what's there and you start fixing it, but at once. looking at what you need to fix first and operating that way. It was never going to be a quick job. It was never going to be a quick fix in everything that it was going to do. It was never going to be that. Our country was mismanaged so much. The police system was absolutely corrupt. The judicial system, entire judicial system was corrupt. ZESCO, which we have, was used as a cash cow. People who never worked there were being paid out of there. The system, it was essentially, if you are part of the if you are part of the ruling party, you were invited to the table to have whatever you can have. The people who could not have jobs anyway, they told them, don't worry, you can get money from all those marketeers selling at the market. So this was a system that was it was rotten. It was rotten to the core. The entire system was rotten to the core. And when people do analysis of where you wanted to do it, and I get a feeling HH understood that there was so much corruption. But I think when the UPND got into power, they were probably caught out at the scale of corruption in our country. It was everywhere. We never understood what was really going on. Let's put it this way. The government, this was the same PF government who sold us expired medication. You've literally come from a government, and I always give it this example. What happened with the honeybee scandal is an equivalent of somebody putting poison into the running water. That was the equivalent to this. We have come from a political party who were quite prepared to cover up what was going on and deliberately kill our people because people knew what happened with those medication. And then everybody said, now HH is not doing what he promised. Look where we've come from. We've come from a place where there was a party that was literally could have killed its own people. That's where we've come from. The system was so broken. And when people say, well, we needed this to be fixed very quickly, this is work. And I think as Zambian people have to be prepared to say, am I prepared to put the work in that is required? Are we prepared to go and work with the current president to bring about the changes? HH came into power. 2 weeks later, people were going, oh, where's free education then? You promised us free education. That's 2 weeks. That is 2 weeks before he even sat down and look at other stuff. Everyone, where's free education?
Olo muchu pomkwai bala pela kwa kashta. Mama nyalo ba fanga nako. Wale tom kashpanganda wa upa. At within 2 weeks to refok mone fumo. Imweni kuisa mafimona. So ababa lefo kulete fya kulanda pa. You know, this government is doing something positive, and it is doing something in our interest that is benefiting both you, the Kelenkas, and people, the 2.8 million that voted for Hakainde Hichilema and the government and the alliance. These trips the president is making, we should look at the benefit side of it. What benefit is it bringing to our country? Is Hakainde going to these neighboring countries to promote his own business, or is doing it for the benefit of you and me? So these are questions that you should be asking. And those trips that he's making, if he goes to Congo, and then you start demonizing him to say historically Congo has been is a war zone, what economical benefits are we getting from there? You know very well that the Congo, it will actually help a lot of Zambians if at all we were to start importing or exporting our products from Zambia to Congo. It used to be illegal. All these previous governments, they closed the borders. And here's a gentleman who is going to take away that caveat over the border. He wants to remove that anomaly so that the government also will start benefiting from those trades. People will be paying revenues, and the government is going to benefit, and it's going to put money into your pockets and come up and fulfill those projects of yours. Malawi, Malawi, we are just like the Malawi is those are our counterparts, those are our friends, those are our brothers and sisters. Why not? Why not? How much will it cost the president to move from Lusaka to go to Malawi? It's like going to Chipata. So, please let this president bring up these economical trips, because these trips, I call them economical trips. They are going to benefit Zambia in the long run. What he's doing right now is to bring connectivity, the network, because we are interacting with other people. We are not just going to be independent, to isolate ourselves from our neighboring country when we are landlocked. You are the people that have been singing of land-linked. So let us utilize this land link to benefit our people than negating the president just because you don't like the president. That is Ali winner. People decided. Get that in your scopus. Get it in your head. President Hakainde Hichilema, together with his UPND and alliances, they actually won the general election 3 months ago. They are now in power. UPF lost their power, so sit back and watch what this man is yet to do or is going to do. Already, let's talk about the positive things he has done within 3 months. 3 months.
Before we get to that, we'll get to that one kilobyte. And now I just want to play devil's advocate now.
Yes,
I want to play devil's advocate because, right. So we've seen the trips that the president has undertaken. I watched the speech which he gave to the Zambian people in London, which is very impressive. And I was thinking, I can't believe we got a president like this. Don't you think the president can engage the media a lot more? I think that's one of the questions that we've had. Can't the president engage the media a lot more? Because what I think is, I watched the speech the president did. I followed everything that the president did when he was in the UK. But when I looked at the news outlets in Zambia, they did not have what he was doing. So what he was really doing was never really covered. You probably saw something with him with Fashion Sakala, or just he spoke in London, but it never really covered the fact that who he spoke to, world leaders he spoke to. I want you to just think about this. When the previous president was visiting, when he went to America, he did not even go to White House. When HH went to America, he went to White House and saw the vice president of America. When HH came to the UK, he had a conversation with the Prime Minister of Britain. When HH was in the UK, he spoke to all these business people, all these business houses. Would it not have been beneficial for the country, for HH himself, if there was a media coverage? I think the only coverage that was there for what he was doing was on his own Facebook page. Yes. If there was an independent media company, media companies who were covering his trips, he was covering what everybody was going to, and then they can be a report and say, this is what our president has done. Yes. Then that actually dilutes away all the news that our other political parties might want to give, because there is news. But as long as that part of it is left vacant, there's always room for anybody to, all the Sean Zeros of this world, to come in and say whatever they want to, and it fills in the news with that.
Ilingili nga wamona president ule chita involve sana ama media. Alefo kulanga abantu what he's doing. Mostly tabakwataka proper program. They just want to run around. They want to dish air it everywhere. But we know that there are institutions that we are paying for, that are supposed to, that are mandated by law, by the Act of Parliament, to cover all these coverages and wherever the president goes. But remember what we are doing right now. I'm going to speak, I think, try to speak for the government. This government is trying to reduce costs right now. because the economy that these guys, what they inherited, it is not something that we can even talk about because there's too much in Congole. Right now, for him to even had chosen, imagine Nama journalist, Kiravale and Ama ZNBC guys crew joining the president on a commercial plane. Imagine just that. For him, for the president to even have thought, let me cut on the cost. Would it be fair for us to start judging him that you are not even covering enough? But here we are talking about what he did. He brought the information, we got the information. But look, the sad thing is, tulabutukire fin too. If we let a development we want to talk about coverage. We are not talking about the issue itself that he has gone to do and that he has brought back to Zambia. Look at what happened when he arrived from the UK by airport. The journalist, what kind of question would you expect from a journalist asking such a question on tribalism? Instead of asking issues that, what did you do there? What have you brought to this country? What was the things that you discussed? The developmental issue, what does tribalism has to do with the development or his trip? Was his trip about the environment or whatever, the global whatever? Was it about tribalism? That is where we sunk so low. And that is why we have so much problems right now. There are things that we should do. We should prioritize right now. What he is prioritizing right now is to put this economy back to normal, to normalcy, just to bring back some little bit of sense in recognition and bring confidence in our investors. We want to have production being done in our own country. Let's have this president who has had the heart to sell our country, not to sell it completely without pocket challenges, but to sell it so that it's on the market, so that people can come here and pour in their investments and invest into our country. Not to climbo, pari tribalism, pari coverage. These are things that he is going to work on. These are small shortcomings, but he's just new. We give him a benefit of doubt. This man is trying to reduce cost at all costs so that we can meet the demands of people. We have pensioners that have never been paid by the Kelenkas. We have teachers that are unemployed, that were fired, were not employed because they were choosing. Anyone that sing their song, dance to their song, come in. Those that don't, go away. But this president is very inclusive. He's including everyone, including the Kelenkas themselves. That's why for the first time we could even hear a president making a deal, or the government making a deal with the Basakala, Nyongo. So this president has a very, very huge heart for the Zambian people. Let's not demonize him. We have trusted this man for so many years, but he's chosen to keep quiet. He has not retaliated. Even when he came into power, we have not seen him bashing these chaps the way they expected or anticipated, including the former president. His intentions was to come and arrest him on frivolous charges. So,
and that's a difference, and that is a difference in approach, in the way that is done anything, and I think that leads in so well with our second topic, which is the IMF deal. And before Mr. Mkelawai, before you come in, and that my take on the IMF deal, I think the first thing that a lot of people might say is, hang on, but he said Edgar Lungun's government were borrowing too much money. Every government borrows money. I can tell you that now. Every government borrows money every year. Every government. The United Kingdom, the United States of America, all the big countries that you can think about, they borrow money every year. So now, what is a big deal when it comes to Zambia borrowing money? The problem wasn't borrowing. The problem was, where was that money spent?
Management.
So that money it's a money that they used to, as Vom Kelawai put it in Kushani now, when they go to America. That's the money they used to. They used to borrow that money, and that money they used to send their children to schools abroad. So that meant, so if I borrow a loan, and I go straight away, there's my money, and I go to the bar, Nanwina, that's not productive. Borrowing was not the problem. What I did with that money was the problem. Why? Because I'm going to be paying at the end of that month, I'll start paying back every month of that. I've wasted that money, I've wasted that resource. Now I have to spend a quarter of my salary to pay that, because I have not invested in anything that brings me money. And there lies the problem. The PF borrowed money, but that money was not invested in anything that brought back money. They gave themselves all these overpriced contracts to the people that they knew. So that money never really was never spread out in the country. They built the airport, a new airport. Now, here's a thing. The problem with borrowing money, building an airport with borrowed money. When you build an airport with borrowed money, that airport is not gonna be giving you back revenue. And in a few years' time, what you're going to do, you're going to need more money to maintain that. So it becomes a cash cow. It doesn't really produce any revenue, but you have to spend money on it. And there lies a problem. Also, all these big buildings started coming up, and they say, we are investing. This is what we look, this is what we have. So that money was never really invested in anything that's going to bring people money. So now let's talk about this 1.4 billion IMF. Why is it important that this is given? HH's government have inherited so much debt. They need money to start managing everything, that to putting their plans into fruition. So going back to an example, borrowing money from a loan, borrowing a loan from the bank. So if I go to the bank, I sit there and I go, you know what, my finances are not too good. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to borrow a loan from the bank so that I can start managing my cash properly. That I borrow money from a loan, I invest somewhere, and I do that, and then my finances are back. I'm paying back my loan, but I've put my finances back in order. And this loan is all about putting all the finances back in order, because the government needs to say, we need to start building the economy, but we need money to spend in order to start building an economy. And this is a difference. This money that has been borrowed on behalf of the Zambian people, just like the Lungu government did. And the HH government promises they're going to spend this money on behalf of the Zambian people and build the economy. The Lungu government, with the money that they borrowed, did not spend it on our behalf. They spent it on their behalf. The fire truck tenders, ridiculous amounts. The ambulance tenders, ridiculous amount. The honeybee scandals, ridiculous amounts of money that were involved. Money did not go to the people. They borrowed this money. Money went to the cadres. Money went to the thugs at the bus stations. So this money was never for our people. It was never spent in building anything that we could say that will be for the benefit. And that is a difference. So the money that HH and this government have agreed with IMF is money that is going to be used to rebuild the economy that the PF destroyed for 10 years. Before they stand up and say, why is he borrowing that much money? To rebuild the economy you destroyed. Bon Kelabai.
You see, I always say that it's a pity that we are also looking at putting a blame already to the PF. We are the people that brought the PF into power. We are the ones that sang, and we put these people to represent us. And they went out and did what they did. That's why today we took over their liabilities, you know, and vicariously, the current government is the one that is now indebted together with us, the Zambian people, because we chose those people, we brought them into power, and they mismanaged our economy. Unfortunately, foreign investors, they are not looking at individuals like Edgar Lungu. They are looking at a country. They have put us in a global. These are the representatives that they chose to come and ask for money from us. And then they promised, they gave all those tax rebates, whatever they did. I'm not an economist, but I'm just going to talk in terms of my own layman's knowledge. You know, they came up with all those things. They signed deals, they signed contracts, which now, right now, you know, some of those contracts, some of those MOs, the memorandum of understandings, they are binding, legally speaking, they are binding. Now, for Hakainde Hichilema to come and nullify those agreements, you have to ask these lawyers that will tell you that it takes time and it's costly. So that's why the Male Monano Kumona Party, it was even delaying in terminating some of these chaps' contracts, because there are laws that are governing such kind of contracts. To say, Omonen, if I fire these people, they will come back to me and claim more money. So I have to take a strategic position. Of course, he has to remove them. We don't want them. They actually misbehaved. Anyone that misbehaves in a company and you see that he has stolen, of course, you dismiss them without even giving them opportunity to be heard. That's sheer waste of time. And get whatever we can get from the government. So if you are losing in store because you were in PF, put your blame, not put your blame kuli boss when who are employed, because these are the chaps that were busy. And you are innocent. We know that most of you people are innocent. You never even benefited. And the chaps that were benefiting from all this were the chaps that were so vocal, insulting, and putting up threats, because vale to protect. So when the IMF, I just want to advise our government, the current government, to say, be careful. The IMF, yes, they are there to put in to revive or to help out the countries that are struggling. Right now, I know Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, together with his team, they are not stupid. They cannot enter into contracts that are going to choke them. They are not going to enter into contracts that are going to choke our country. They are not going to get debts that is going to choke us, that we cannot come out even on top of what they've already have. We cannot fall into the same ditch twice. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And you think HH will go back and repeat the same things that the previous government did, honestly. And we, the people, we gave him that mandate. You think he's going to go behind our backs and do exactly what the previous government did? I don't think so. He's not stupid. He is the president with substance, and his men and women that are supporting, that stood by him, including the 2.8 million that voted for him, are not stupid. He knows, and we know that this man is going to take this boat. I don't even want to use boat, because Charlie thinking, take us to the promised land. He's going to take out of this pit, which these chaps put us in. Now, what bad TV. So, in never IMF to allow let them observe and let them hear our cry. We have given them a manifestos, Yesu. They know what we have been kelenkared on. We have been abused. We have been cheated. The government has been cheated. So this tab, it's on us, on every Zambian. So we just need to help this government. Instead of negating them, let's put them somewhere so they can do something positive to our country. Yes, let's put our checks and balances and touch the fuel in a respective manner. The time for campaigns are over. This time around is let's try to work together as a team and put this Zambia back on track. The reason why we are using back on track, because our government has not been on track for the past, I don't know, 10 years or 7 years. So even from you, the very people that were in the power, by PF, guys front offices, because of tabalemi umfuila. So muila mwana kwate akainde chilema aishire mukumiluisha or mukumichita separate from the Zambia. No, you are our brothers and sisters and we love you. But abantu benu mwale chita supporti tumewa vechinka mwandini bali tona wile chalo. Imwapo mwila mwana kwa TV bale chita bale kula bale chita shani bale tweak bale tushinga mafipa menso. Cause if you don't say bale chita fi bale twi bale tende mpia bamye bati I bridge ika costinga costinga 200 million. Kanshvena bridge yoba chita shani bali pile 10,000. So in those things, and throughout, it went out throughout my projects, yonse mchalo. So for Tulemi Lomba, please, not quarter 5 years back in the Chilemana of government, yawe. Send to Papela Kashta. If you kuba sonte minwe, muyesha tatbala at batch station, they stop or they feel way. You are not doing them a favor or you are not doing them a service. You are doing yourself a disservice when you start negating your government that is doing something positive that will bring food on your table, that will put your children in school, and even providing them with free education. Because right now, tabakwete mpia shakupela bana benu bamichite babapere free education. Mala sanga kwisi impia shiri matumba ya ma PF abafumine bali shike mpia bambi impia shimbishali ya kufyalo fimbi. You know
right,
that. So,
right, just this is a very important point. This is a very, very important point. A very important notice. So on Monday at 15 hours, there is a joint IMF and GRH interactive forum on the staff level agreement. So this event is on Monday.
You mean GRZ?
GRZ, yeah.
Okay.
So for anyone with any concerns regarding, and this is where transparency comes in, with anyone with any concerns regarding this IMF deal, you can send an email with your queries, your questions, your consent at treasurybrief@mof.gov.zm. That is treasurybrief@mof.gov.zm or at treasurybriefs@gmail.com. Say treasurybriefs@gmail.com. And the first email was treasurybriefs@mof.gov.zm. So that there's transparency there. So anybody who's got any questions, any concerns, if you can,
before you go any further, Frank, sorry to cut you, my brother. What technician baluna kwa mulaho baive message or email or baive fa page aluna so that people can copy it, and yes, otherwise that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, our admin for today, if we can just put those two emails out for everybody who wants to join consent, anybody wants to take part in that forum. It's going to be live on Facebook as well, so anybody who's got any questions, you can put your questions there. We're also joined by Siambuli Bayeni. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, my tribe cousin. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm happy to see Babu Kireva. You know, I admire this man. How I wish if one day, please, Babu Kireva, find a
Cha.
day so that you take me to your home.
No, the two
I'll
days
be so,
party.
yes, I'll be so grateful.
Yeah. Yeah,
You are
which one?
welcome.
Which topic do you want to contribute on? Is the president's trips, the IMF, or you can talk about the 100 days of HH governance?
Yeah, I think I will talk over these 200 days and the trips. Yeah, and I think I will try, at some time maybe I will be trying to use my local language so that maybe someone can get a glimpse of it.
Please.
Just carry on. Use whatever language, use whatever Zambian language you want to use.
Yeah, so thank you very much. You know, uh, uh, kuti muntu inkamukuweza mukuweza sometime nga kuti chinthu nchaunka nchatalenti chilichonse. I think we need to appreciate that. Takuti kuti onse mazuwa twainka mukuweza tuleta chikanyama no. So when I compare Edgar Lungu strips and HH, they are totally different. These people, they did whatever they did, but mostly the money bakalikulya bolwavo batyajivule mwangu bakerenka. I think let me borrow the word Mr. Elias uses. Bakerenka. Those are the kerenkas. We can't run away from that. They are so they kerenka most of the money. That money was supposed to be used maybe in hospitals, but it was just in there. Let me talk about the 100 days. You know, mulitonga tuamba kuti utalumbi munzi mubwa. Pone tuamba kuti uligambe gamba kuti imuzige ocheni ulumbwa naloboga. Some other people, they don't see what HS is doing. They can only appreciate HH when he's gone. Then we are not like them. Because we know they are kerenkas. So HH is doing whatever he can. Otherwise, I don't expect anyone, especially our president, from Kaunda up to HH. I think HH has scored, and we need to appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think I'll be contributing as we move on. Thank you. Bonda tevo mukereva tumeza hulu date.
Twalumba kapati basa.
Talumba, I'm humbled.
Well, Mr. Patrick Chilufya, we can't keep you quiet, my brother. Good evening.
Can you open the door? Good evening, but can you hear me?
I can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Can you hear me, Frank?
Yes, I can hear you.
We can hear you loud and clear, my brother.
What was the title, Frank? What's the subject?
So the topics is HH travels, trips, yes. IMF loan, and the 100 days.
100 days. Okay. So which one do you want? What do you want me to comment on?
Which one are you comfortable with?
You can pick one. You're gonna comment, or you can comment on the three. You're gonna have to make it really brief.
Yeah. I'll comment on the three, but I'll be quick. Yeah. Yeah, 100 days. Yeah, 100 days. I think this government has done very well. Obviously, they can't do big things because the budget is still under PF. Their own budget only starts in January. But looking at the things they've done, you know, there's breath of fresh air in the country. People are arrested today. In the morning, in the evening, they are out on bail or bond, and people can protest peacefully, and a lot of things are happening. No cadres in the markets, you know, and then when you go into government positions now, though they are cadres who are employed, but they are professional cadres. We're not talking about cadres who have never been to school, but just because they are cadres, then they were given positions. So I think they've done well. And then the other one, Frank, was what is the trip to the IMF.
Yeah.
Yeah, that credit line is it's inevitable. because we need that money, because we've got a I think we've got one bond that is that requires to be paid. I think interest. I think about 700 million or so. That requires to be paid next year. So we need money to pay that. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to access cheaper form of money to go and foot the bigger the other loans which are expensive, the other bonds which are expensive. You know, which is then in the long run, then they'll start paying those cheaper loans. So we needed that. There's no way we were going to avoid getting the money, either from other creditors or IMF. I think IMF is the best for now. Yeah. But then going forward, I think we need to start generating our own money to start paying those loans, because we cannot keep on borrowing and borrowing, you know, going forward. But I think with the efficiencies, you know, that are going to be in place, with the processes and procedures in place, less corruption, I think a lot of the government is going to have a lot of money to spend into the economy, and also to use some of that money to pay back the loans. The trip to Malawi, I've heard so many PF cadres complaining that the president is traveling. They're calling him Vasco da Gama. Yeah, but when you look at he's a new president, and most of the trips he has made so far is you know, they are good trips. And not only that, if HH makes 10 trips, the money he spends is not even equal to one trip that Lungu made. Just one trip Mama Lungu made to America to go and bring those old ambulances. You know, they even took, she went with an entourage of, I don't know, 50 people or what. The money they spent on that trip.
There were more than that.
Yeah, there's so many people, even chefs and cooks. So, but the trips HH is making, look at, he went to America, look at what he brought from America. He went to the COP, look at what he brought from the COP. He went to Congo. Congo is a strategic partner. And also, is a new president, the chair of OAU, or AU, African Union, is the Congolese president. So obviously, as a president, he needs to know the chair of the AU, and they needs to start talking, relations, tying, improving relations with the AU countries. And then he went to South Africa. That was a trade fair selling the country. And then he went to Botswana. That was just a short trip. South Africa and Botswana, they were short trips. And then he's going to America. Malawi is also another strategic partner. People in the Eastern Province smuggle a lot of meal to Malawi, maize meal and mealie meal to Malawi, just like in Congo. So that can be another, good market for Zambian farmers. So and he's marketing the country also. There is a lot that we can sell to Malawi, and there's also a lot that Malawans can bring into Zambia. So these trips are inevitable. These trips are important. Absolutely. And as a new president, he needs to start, knowing other presidents, and also because, but Frank, you can only do business with somebody you've got a relationship with. You cannot just wake up from nowhere, let's start doing business with Congo. Have you spoken to them? Have you spoken to the president? There have to be those relationships first. It begins with relationships, and then you start doing business. So I think, he's doing well. And even when he goes to Malawi on Tuesday, you will be shocked. You'll be going with two or three people. Yeah, but the only point.
Bachirufia, can I just chip in there? They're just brothers, sorry. Could you kindly mute yourselves when you come onto the show before we... Vadala, can you mute yourself? And our brother Peter, And yeah, mute yourself so we can give chance to. Can you wind up, my brother, so we can give room for others?
Frank, let me just wind up a second.
That's right.
The only other thing that I've noticed with HH's trips, yes, it needs to have a lean entourage, but I've noticed that at least he needs to carry somebody, maybe from what do you call it? He needs to carry somebody maybe from ZNBC or Daily Mail or Times of Zambia, one of the state newspapers or one of the state media organizations, because every trip the president makes, it becomes part of his legends, his legacy. It becomes part of history. It has to be archived. So it is to travel at least with one of those people, Daily Mail or ZNBC. We're not saying it takes the whole ZNBC, maybe one or two members of ZNBC, just to cover that trip and archive that information for the future. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I absolutely agree. And I know Wamkalawai, and I can see where Wamkalawai was coming from by we can't publicize this, but it was just good to have an understanding what the president is doing. And I think the country wants to know what the president is doing. If you're working for where they are, it's easy to say, but we just have to believe they're working. People want to see we're working. Right, you're live on TV Bakwetu. Today we are discussing the president's trips, the IMF loan, and 100 days of the UPND rule. With my co-host, the legendary Mukelawai. And we're also joined by our TV Bakwetu guest here, and also our regular, Mr. Patrick Chilufya, always very insightful. We're joined by Mr. Samuel Roberts. Emmanuel Roberts.
Samuel Roberts, yes.
Samuel Roberts.
Yes. Actually, for me, my take, I think I'm going to talk about the presidential media team, first of all, because I feel like no matter how good or no matter what the president does, whether good, it still has to be documented. So I feel the presidential media team isn't doing much, isn't doing enough to bring out that aspect. Because, I mean, what's the point if the president goes to the UK, for example, and meets all those world leaders, meets all those business people, but there's nobody to cover that thing? Because I feel like right now we're living in a world where propaganda is thriving. So if there's nothing documented in terms of like proof to show that, okay, the president is actually doing this and that, then people are going to just believe whatever they see, whatever they see or hear. So I feel like the president should, yes, should actually carry some media like ZNBC, Prime TV, maybe, just to show that, okay, yeah, the president met these people and he's actually doing something, and just leaving it to his Facebook page, because obviously I think not everybody follows his Facebook page. So we can't really say that people actually know what he's doing. So I feel, and also perhaps another thing he can do is whenever he returns from those trips, he should like try to brief the media, or I think perhaps his press aide or whatever can like brief the media on what the president did, who he met and stuff like that. Only then can we see a reduction in all these zeros, these Sean Tembos and whoever who are saying all these certain things about the president, because then there'll be like actual proof and documentation of what the president did and met. So I think that's my contribution.
Amazing contribution, brother. Amazing. Yes,
I think we agree with that one, Kalawaizen. We need to know what they're doing. I think we know what the president is hardworking, has always been hardworking. You don't become successful in business because of lack of hard, but the country are asking. I think there's been a lot, and we can't get away from it. There has been a lot of these people in the country feeling we're not seeing enough results for what he's doing, but it's hard work. And I think it would be good to just go, we're doing this, we're planting this. If you've got a farm, somewhere and you plant something, obviously you're not going to have to show, but you have to say, I've got a farm. Here's a farm I've planted. Look, I'm watering and fertilizing it. So for me, I think it's a good idea. Can we I'll come back to you, Kilavai.
I just wanted to add on what you were saying. Actually, I hope the Minister of Information, Nivona Vautwa, she's listening to all this. If not, please convey this message to her that we need that enthusiasm that we saw when she was talking about the 100 days. Oh my! I mean, we were so thrilled. And when Anthony, what's his name again? Anthony Walia, the group there, the media group, please come out positively and let's see what the government or the president is doing. Don't relate in giving out the message to the people so that we can bash these propagandas from Benezero, as you've heard from our brother Robert. Yes, over to you.
Yeah, before I bring in Mr. Peterman, so there's a very interesting comments in there. I don't know who I should ask this. But Patrick, if you can just try and answer this quickly, what's your take on this? It's a comment from KB Matongo, and it says media houses need to sponsor their own people to cover the president.
Yeah, I think it's equally true, because I've never seen a president who travels on his own. If say Trump or Obama is traveling, private media, like in America, private media, they also follow him, but they have to pay for that because they're making money. They're selling the news. But which means in Zambia, I don't know whether they can afford, but we've got a number of private media. They can also sponsor the 1 or 2 journalists to go with the presidents, and they need to pay for that. But we've got a public media and also newspapers, so they can go with 1 or 2 reporters, from a cameraman from ZNBC and a reporter. And then Daily Mail also can send one reporter, and Times of Zambia can also send 1 reporter. I think we've got also another media organization sponsored by the government. I've just forgotten its name. Mukelebai, what's the name of that organization?
I think you mean Zanis.
Zanis,
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Zanis can also send somebody, because they to cover the president. So and the president should not pay for that, because broadcast ZNBC is sponsored by the government, so they've got a budget for that. So
they still have this.
But the point, Frank, is somebody, either Minister of Information is not doing his job, because they are the ones who need to organize all that. Permanent secretary. Maybe we didn't have a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information. Now that we've got a permanent secretary, now that we've got a permanent secretary, then the permanent secretary needs to make sure that the president goes with an entourage of reporters.
There's a
so
comment.
That the nation. Yeah, can I see the comment, please?
I think it's just gone away. I think there was a comment that says the president carries journalists from ZNBC. It's a comment from Carlo Cardozo. For the record, the president carries journalists from ZNBC.
The only time I saw him carry journalists from ZNBC, I think when he went to the UK for the COP26. Although I was very disappointed with the ZNBC journalists he took there, because I think she was actually more of interviewing than actually, because I didn't say anything. I didn't see any report after that of the trip there. So
I'm a journalist. I'm a journalist. Government, new government. Government baleba payroll pia bachita promise ama packages olonga waya baleba befya kuchita report, not to report what they saw. So they still have that syndrome, but they have to understand that things have changed. There's a new government. They can go to Ministry of Information and get to my pastor, go ahead, whatever, and then they can do all kind of things. And this president is very transparent, and so far his Facebook page is also doing better. It's reporting, but of course we have ZNBC. He doesn't also want ZNBC to just report the president. He wants to change things. He wants to change the narratives. He wants the government medias to also be able to include the opposition, you know, their views. Not Filatwale Mona. President Lungu was dancing, it's beneficial to the Zambian people. President Lungu has no. This time around, the narrative has to change.
I don't know how the president dancing benefits the country, but there we go. Let's talk now. Let's try and involve some guests who haven't spoken. Mr. Oswald Monson, good evening, sir.
Good evening, and how are you? Good evening, team. How are you, everyone?
Fine, thank
very
you.
Well, thank you.
Fine.
What's your contribution? What are you going to talk about? The president. The president.
Anyway, I've got a lot that I wanted to say, just that I'm struggling with my connection. I don't know why today.
Just
can you
speak up?
Okay, on the president trip, I think so far so good. I'm very impressed. So far, I'm very impressed with what the New Dawn government is doing. But maybe my comment would be on the media side. I think starting from the Minister of Information, for me, I feel it's a miss, and I feel the president has to change. I think it's one area maybe needs to work on. Starting from the minister, maybe some team members, as far as media and communication is concerned, I think the New Dawn government is not doing well. We need to change. There's a lot of things that is going on. You can see strategically on decisions that have been made. Just the recent update of the IMF loan. Most of the people are looking at the amount to be small, but most of the thing that they don't realize is it's all about changing the perception. Because previously, on the global market, Zambia have not been doing well. There's been that negative perception about Zambia, and we could see that's why maybe even the Eurobond was not doing well, and you could see that maybe the government is trying to change the perception so that at least creditors can develop that confidence in us. But you don't see such information coming from the media team. I feel Minister of Information and some team members, as far as media and communication is concerned, need to be changed. I think that's my view, and I feel that's to help maybe New Dawn to improve in one or two issues.
I think maybe we should suggest some appointments of some journalists who should be employed in the media team, like Costa Mwansa, for example, because I feel like he's one of the good guys there who really knows what it is to be a media expert, like to bring the information out there. Because most of those guys who are in that media teams, like most of them are, I don't even know who they are. So
we need Costa Mwansa to be where he is, because he's putting up some pressure and making those guys in the government to work extra hard and pull up their socks. So we need him there.
Yeah, it's a very important point, and I think for me, I've always felt that way. I've always felt that there's been this lack of communication. This is what we're doing. This is what this means. And we're borrowing this money, and this is what this means, and this is why we had to borrow this money. We have to communicate to our people, because people are going to ask questions, and we want to be the government that are different, answer people's questions. And if HH government is planning to do that, that means communicate to the people. If all these people in this world, the zeros of this world, are going to bring up innuendos, but we can take away that, we can create that question. Joseph has also Joseph might to comment on the media. The media taps at embassies of countries being visited should cover the reports through Zanis. So that's another take on that one. Mr. The other one, sir, who hasn't spoken yet.
This is Peter, yeah.
Peter, good evening. Can you hear us? So which one are you? We can hear you. Peter? Okay, he's gone. He's gone. We got about 14 minutes. We got 14 minutes to wrap up. We've got 14 minutes to wrap up. So I'll start with you.
Yes, Badara, Kamwamba.
Okay. Yeah, I think the other concern, although it's not there in the topic we are discussing, in Kenya Chivoria, I've got a concern. In Chivoria, I've got a concern. I don't know how we can help ourselves. We have got a big problem in Chivoria. People, they are still doing those drugs, whereby those people that are realizing they want the marketeers. So I think something should be done before it's too late. Okay. People every day, they are being beaten. So I don't know how we are going to reach to send that information to maybe to go to those higher authorities. Otherwise, Chivoria, if it's possible, that was my own thinking. I think Chivoria should be demolished and something should be put in other things. Because
right.
I personally,
we will leave that.
To 5 years. Yes, I'm clocking to 5 years. I don't use Chivoria Road.
Yeah.
So, there's a big problem. I don't know, maybe
to the powers to be. We see your concern. We hear the concern. That is a whole topic on itself. We will leave that to the concern to be. But let's just. We got 13 minutes. We got 13 minutes. So the last 100 days, the HH 100 days. Just a short summary for everyone. Let's give everyone a chance just to give a short summary. I will start with you, Mr. Roberts, sir.
The first 100 days of the new Dawn administration, I feel they've spent more time on like the president said, right? Like he's spent most of his time trying to unlock and like seal the loopholes of the bleeding areas that the previous administration left. So if I was going to rate them, I think I would give them an 8, just for the sake of, the other 2 is because maybe no government is perfect, first of all, so we have to understand that, okay, they do have some shortcomings, but I think they've done well so far. So we hope to see more and as they go along. So yeah, 8 out of 10.
Thank you. Badala, the first 100 days.
Where's Zambuli? Come on, Badala.
What's Bogo? Yeah, I think in 100 days, I think I've got nothing to say more, but I'm so grateful. So that maybe in terms of the information, I think we need somebody who is talkative. But our mother, I think she's not doing well. Yeah, we need somebody who can help us. I'll just give an example. There was, I think it should be about 2 or 3 days ago, there was the issue to say, the president is going to the parliament to do what, to answer some questions, which was a real propaganda. So we need somebody, once someone says something from the opposition, we need somebody who is talkative to come in. On that one, I think, I'll give them maybe 9 out of 10. Thank you very much.
9. Oh, you people are generous. 8, 9. Oh, Mr. Oswald Mansa, the first 100 days. Just a brief summary.
For me, I'll give them 7 out of 10. Why? I think let me not be a negative person by starting with the FMT instead of AFOCAP. I think you see that the government has got direction as compared to previous regime. You see that they are trying to work on 1 or 2 issues, and you could see the direction. I think so far, so good. I'm happy. Maybe the approach, I think, end of Kadarism, I think for me that's a very big plus. And then rule of law, return to rule of law, I think that has given confidence in the current government. Then approach to IMF, imagine within 100 and something days, which I think PF struggled to manage in 3 years. For me, that's another achievement. And the number of things that I think it will take me maybe my all-time counting success within few days. I think for me, They deserve time and support.
Can we mute, please? If you're not speaking, can you mute? Peter, can you mute yourself?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think where I feel the New Dawn is not doing well, one, I think in the fight against corruption, I feel they are too slow. I know it could be methodical, but still, I'm not comfortable now. Faith Msonda case was closed. It seems there is more stake to that bond. So I feel that issue in future needs to be open, but it seems legally the issue is closed. I don't know what will happen, and there's no clear communication from the government or what their stance on that case. And then the other issue, just like Ed alluded to, I feel, I think in terms of communication, I think so far they are not doing well. Therefore, IH may be changed at Ministry of Information, perhaps even the permanent secretary. I don't know, I don't hear them. So maybe on the media aspect, they need to change. So for me, 7 out of 10.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And also joined by our regular here, Percy. Percy, how are you? You're muted.
I'm actually good. I was listening to the background. I didn't want to join in, but because of one of our special panelists who are here mentioned about something I don't agree with. That's why I came.
Percy.
It's somebody who said to demolish Chivolia. Let me give you a simple history, my friend. Chivolia has been there before Kabwata, before Libala. Okay? So you can't come and say demolish Chivolia. No. There are other ways you can do. If you go and develop Chivolia, it will be a better way of saying, okay, you find that people will be educated. If you go in Chivolia, it's a dilapidated area. It's been no government. When I say no government, starting from UNIP, no government has gone in Chivolia to develop anything, to put in toilets, roads, electricity. No, none of them. And then you come here and say to demolish Chivolia. That I don't agree. My family is a product. My family is a product of Chivolia. That's one thing you have to know. My family is a product of Chivolia, and I know what I'm talking about. If you had come here and say Chivolia needs to be developed and things like that, I would agree with you. But demolishing, that's the wrong way. If you want war, go and demolish it.
I think the other way to look at it is if a place is left undeveloped, underdeveloped, and the right facilities are not there, you're always going to have a lot of poverty. And when there's a lot of poverty, there's always going to be a lot of crime. So the only thing that is needed for a place like Chivolia is put development there, put the right facilities, and to make sure that people access the right facilities. And if that way you develop a place. Otherwise, we're going to be walking around the country developing any place that is underdeveloped, and that is not the way to go. Now,
let me just add one thing on top of that. You mentioned Chivolia. I'll give you one simple example. You look at places like Chawama. You look places that like Kanyama. You'd find that there is a little bit of development there when you compare it to Chivolia itself. There is a little bit of development in those places I've mentioned. Because even in Chivolia, I can't remember. I don't think I've seen a tarmac in Chivolia. But there is a tarmac in Kanyama. There is a tarmac in Chawama. And Chivolia is right next door to the town. The only thing Chivolia has is Chivolia Primary School, which is next door to Doolies. I don't know what they call it now. We used to call it Doolies. Anyway, I'll leave it there.
But Dallas, see what you've done. Right. We're gonna move on. We're getting closer to the conclusion. Make sure all the panelists have a say. Mr. Peter Mansa, in a minute, what is your take on the last 100 days?
I wanted to come in a bit.
We're going to carry on the conversation in the background to get the view. Otherwise, we need to start.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to respond to Brother Pace. Okay, anyway, I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something.
Mr. Peter Mansa, 1 minute. What's your take on the last 100 days? We can't hear you.
I think he needs a mic. I don't know.
No, we can't hear you. We got to move. We can't hear you. Mr. Patrick Chulufia.
I think I would give them 8. Yeah, in the sense that they didn't have permanent secretaries, and but they've still done well. And the 2 is I think dissemination of information. I don't think they're doing very well, and I think a lot of people have echoed that. And then the other thing is we've talked about it here at Wakwetu, the pace at which they're implementing things. You know, people have complained about anti-corruption and other government agencies. They feel there need to be changes there in order for, you know, for some of these corruption cases to be people to be prosecuted. And if people feel those guys worked with a PF, but they're moving slowly. They're moving. I'm happy that there's a new board at ZESCO, and that's the reason why I've given them 8, because ZESCO was my biggest worry. There's a new board. The managing director is gone, and I'm so excited about that. And then yeah, there's sanity in the country, you know, and we've got a president who's got a vision, and I just pray that his ministers, permanent secretaries, will also carry his vision as they are working. And also, we've got a president who is saying no to corruption from the word go, and is telling everybody that there shouldn't be there should be zero tolerance to corruption, and that's what we need as a country going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we've just been joined by Alvin. Alvin, we got a minute. The last 100 days, a minute, and by a minute I mean a minute, not the Zambian minute.
Okay, thank you, Frank. My reflection on the topic of the day, I think straight to the point, I would give this government a 9 out of 10, and I'm being generous because if I am to compare the 100 days of the previous regime and the 100 days of the current regime, believe you me, I still strongly feel even the 9 out of 10, I'm being very conservative. I would have given a 10 out of 10, but for the sake of just to be on liberal, I would give it a 9 out of 10, because believe you me, the 100 days of the previous regime was so chaotic. You cannot even substantiate anything that they really did. But this regime, we have seen things. You can smell the fresh air. You can smell the liberty. You can see people being free to express themselves. So, I mean, of course, other many other things in 100 days. So I would give them a 9 out of 10.
Thank you very much. Wamkelawai, 1 minute, the last 100 days.
Thank you so much, Brother Alvin. How are you? Thank you to see you again. This government, let's just be honest, we Zambians, we are too much into rushing into conclusion even before we see the egg is hatched. Even we start mending it here and there, condemning. But to be honest, this gentleman has raised this bar very high, which most Zambians have never seen before. We have been to these political campaigns and political arguments, checks and balances, but these guys, they have shown us that no, they are way beyond all these pettiness of politics. Hakainde Chilema has proven that, and to me, I would simply give him a 10 out of 10. He deserves it. For the past 100 days in office, what he has shown us is nothing but total order. There's tranquility in a country. There's a rule of law. Of course, there will be this and there. People are busy misleading people. That's why we have doubts. Even the ministers of information for not working, That is not true. She is doing her job. It's just that they're still on probation. So we know that they're going to do the best thing. They are doing well. Nothing to add, nothing to subtract. They are doing everything in the right, they're doing the right thing, and we just need to push and support them, not negating them. So we just need to give them thumbs up and support so that this country can go forward. This country is going to be rich, very rich, with mentality of Hakainde Chilema and the New Dawn entirely. We're going to be okay. I promise you, Zambian, we're going to be okay. Thank you.
You've heard it. You've heard it right here on TV Wakwetu. I think Percy Chalmers got a very interesting comment here. 20 days is just about appointments. That's what I will judge. Things done should be 2 years. That's a very, very valid point. When we judge in everything that they have done, it's the opposition party who are in power for eight years trying to judge somebody who's been in power for 100 days for not doing something. But that's another one. So with TV Wakwetu, as you know, we're all here, we're all volunteers, and we come here because we got a passion to share information, a passion to communicate with the country. As Dr. Elias Musha, when he started this, his aim was to ensure that the right information is given to the people, and this is what we do. So if you are able to send us some stars, go on the comment, you will see a star sign, and you can send us some stars. And if you want to be part of the TV Wakwetu family, you can also do that by becoming a member for about, I think it cost me about £3.45, and that's coffee. That's a cup of coffee for some people every day. And if you want to be part of our family, you can also be with us and also meet us, and discussions just go on further. And when we leave the broadcast, we're going to be discussing a lot more. What's my take on the last 100 days? My take on the last 100 days, our country was destroyed beyond all measures. The facilities that were in our country were not up to standard. The government was not inheriting a foundation to build anything on. The government had to build a foundation to build something on. Our country was destroyed beyond all measures. There was no money for us. There is no medication for our people. Our young girls were just leaving school and getting married. Never should it be that our country has got that option. The powers that were in, they were sending all their children to schools abroad, and they left our people back home to suffer and not send their children to school. Meal allowances at universities went. So that means even that little money that a student will have when they went to school, that money was gone. And this government is rebuilding on years and years of patriotic front rule that was based on destroying our country. Our country was being destroyed. The nucleus of our country was being destroyed. The togetherness that was in our country was being destroyed. And the New Dawn government has really gone into work every day to build this country. Remember, there was a government before this government that was deliberately buying expired medication and feeding our people and giving our people. And so many people were walking around with complications because of what they did. Our country was destroyed to the core, and this government is determined to rebuild this country. And it's up to you and for me to say, we will support you. We will watch you to see what you're doing. And we will do checks and balances. Even here on TV Wakwetu, when we don't see something right, we will talk about it. But let us not let the people who destroyed this country try and undo the good work that is being done. This has been a special presentation of TV Wakwetu with your host, Frank Saliki, my co-host, Mr. Mkelavai, and we were joined by Mr. Patrick Chilufya, Mr. Alvin, Mr. Simbuli, and also our very own Percy Chalmers. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Before you close, Mkelavai, I wanted to say one thing.
Let's talk in the background. Don't move out.
Background.
You can talk in the background. Don't move out.
This has been a special presentation of TV Bakwetu. God bless our country, and may the Lord be with you. May the Lord protect you each and every day. And remember, let us all walk in love. One Zambia, one nation. This has been TV Bakwetu. We shall see you soon. Bye-bye.